Hello everyone, how are you? Welcome to today's webinar. It is so good to see you. I've seen Pedro and Elizabeth and Anna as well, and so many of you with us. Now, I'm speaking to you today from Porto. I wonder if you could type in the chat box where you are watching us today from. So let's see if we can go around this country in about 2 minutes. Hi Anna, welcome. Hi Paula, how are you today? Let's see if we can see where you are from. So we're starting in Porto and we've jumped to Elizabeth and Lisbon. And our next stop is in Porto as well. Lady with Selena. Hi Selena, how are you? Clad is in Porto too. And Pedro, what about you? Where are you from? Paula's watching from Gaia. Paula, is the weather as terrible in Gaia as it is in Porto today? Hi, Augusta, how are you? Where are you from? So we have somebody from Carnaxide. I'm lucky to have Balmira, my co-author, with us, and she's watching us from Alival today. Sarah is watching us from Vienna, and Christina from Irmesinde. Elena, hello, so good to see you again. What's the weather like in Bragança? So as you can see, technology is absolutely amazing. We're allowed to be together in the comfort of our homes. Before I start today's webinar, I'd like to say thank you very much to Porto Editora for having made all of this possible. Without them, it wouldn't be possible to go and visit you today. Right, now the title of today's webinar is Let's Flip Learning to Motivate Our Students to Learn English. And today I'll be with you for about an hour, which means that we don't have that many objectives. In fact, I've limited it down to 2 major objectives. Now, let me just get this mouse to work for me so I can change the slide. Right, so we're going to start off by discussing why digital literacy is so important nowadays. And I think we're all more or less convinced of that. And then we're going to try out some easy peasy techie tools that are going to motivate our students to learn English as well as develop their literacy skills. So it's really a sort of 2 for the price of 1. Isabel, don't worry, you're not late at all. You are perfectly on time. We've just started. Right, now I'm going to start off by asking you a very simple question. Why is it so important to bring technology into our classrooms? And I'm going to invite you to think of one reason and type it in the chat box. And we'll see if all our reasons tend to diverge or not. Right, so why is technology so important? Hi there. Let's have a look. Would you type in the chat box with me? So let's have a look and see who is going to be our first student. That's going to be Sally today. Right, so Sally is telling us that technology is important because it's motivating. Paula, hi Paula, how are you? Is seconding that, right? Elena as well. Students find technology motivating. Have you noticed how their little antennas sort of go on as soon as they see Kahoot or anything that's similar? Right, Claudia is saying it's very good for interaction. Claudia, 100 likes there. I'm going to be showing you something that allows interaction. Right, Lourdes, I totally agree with you. It will develop their 21st century skills. Alberto, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Technology is an undeniable part of our lives, right? Paula, I agree that students are better at technology than we are. And so this is a wonderful way to involve them in the classroom and to make them part of the whole learning process. Right, now I've given you one big reason why I think that we should bring in technology into the classroom. And that reason is the perfil do aluno. right? So if you have a look at it, you will see that the Perfield is challenging us to teach literacy and digital literacy as we are teaching English, as we are teaching critical thinking and creative thinking, and also as we are teaching autonomy. And I think you'll all agree with me that digital literacy does lead to autonomy. Now, I cannot help but stop and say hello to Marcia, who I saw on the weekend. A big hello, and to everybody watching us from Madeira. Right, so the Perfield, if nothing else, is a very, very good reason for us to bring this kind of technology into the classroom. And now that we're convinced of the need of doing so, perhaps we can stop just for a second and think about the advantages of flipping learning. Now, before we discuss my reasons for flipping learning, let me ask you just one little question. And could you type in your answer in the chat box so I can see if you're on the same wavelength as I am? Do you have enough time to teach everything that you need to teach to your students or not? Can you type in the chat box? Let's have a look and see if you have these magic wands that can make time stretch, right? Because I, for one, am never able to teach absolutely everything I want to teach. So it's wonderful to see Elaine and Paul and Luch and Christina and Isabel shout in capital letters, no. And I think that this is one of the very, very big benefits of flipping learning. Not only are we able to engage students, as you mentioned just now, but we're also able to maximize classroom time so that we're able to do what's really important. Another big advantage is that we're able to reduce teacher speaking time, which means that we're able to center learning on students. Paula is saying that I wish. It's as if we died and gone to teacher heaven, right? Now, we're also able to develop language skills. And Elaine is saying that many students like autonomy. So this is one of the very, very good reasons to use technology to develop these essential skills, which I have in my next point. And another final advantage that I think is an important advantage is that it allows students to watch videos again and again, or to try and exercise again and again. In other words, we're able to slow down learning to meet the rhythm of the different students, right? And I think you'll agree with me that this is very much needed in the classroom. Now, today, I'm going to be showing you some tools that I love using in my classroom. And in my second objective, we're going to make a distinction between two types of tools. The first set of tools that I'm going to show you are tools which are really going to give students access to knowledge. So they are going to be the receivers of knowledge, but they don't actually have to invent anything. Right, and the reason why I'm going to start off in this way is that I believe that before we can ask students to produce, we need to scaffold learning for them, right? And I think you'll agree with me, and you can type in the chat box just to confirm my suspicion, but I think that your students, like my students, are getting a little bit weaker, or at least have lost some of the skills that they used to have before the pandemic, right? So it is important, in my opinion, to start warming them up so that then they are ready to be producers of knowledge. And I will show you tools that will allow them to do that in the second part of today's webinar. Right, so I see that Sandra feels that this is also true for her students, right? We do notice a little bit of a difference, and Anna as well. So if it is important to scaffold learning, how are these tools going to be able to do this? Oh dear, I think I've just changed the slide in the wrong direction. Sorry about that. Right, so how is technology going to allow us to scaffold this learning? Well, in my opinion, the first thing that it is going to do is to provide us with the context. And we all know how important that is. If we can understand the context, we start deducing language. But technology is also going to allow us to provide natural exposure to language. So students will be able to have access to English spoken by native speakers or by speakers of other languages, but in a natural context. And as we do this, as we set this context, we'll be activating background information for our students, while we will also be motivating them because we are offering a sensory approach to learning English. In other words, they can learn English with their eyes as well as with their ears and many times with their hands as they type on the screen or click to have access to different sites. So I think you'll agree with me that this is a very, very big advantage, and it's a wonderful way to start the learning process. Now, I'm only going to use tools that allow us to save time. And the reason for this is that, well, have you looked at the length of the program that we have to teach? There's a lot that we have to get through in very little time. So one of the criteria for the tools that I've chosen today are tools that allow us to develop the 4 skills at the same time so that we can get more juice out of that learning orange. And before I actually show you any of these tools, I'd like to ask you a really important question. Are you ready for an important question? Could you type your answer in the chat box? So my question is, do your students like watching videos? When you say that they're going to watch a video in class, what is their reaction? Do they get bored? Do they suddenly wake up from what they're doing? Do you notice that they're attentive? Well, Christina is saying that her students like watching videos, yeah? Lurch agrees. That's what gets them on fire, so to say. It captures their attention immediately. So if this is true, Anna, if you are saying, of course, then the kind of tool that we're going to bring into the classroom is the tool that is going to respect their learning style. So Paula, if they love it, let's allow them to learn English in a way that is actually meaningful for them. And to do this, we're going to have a look at an amazing tool. And could you just type in the chat box if you've heard of this tool before? It's called EdPuzzle. Have you ever heard of this one before? So it's called EdPuzzle, and you're able to access it on www.edpuzzle.com. Right now, Anna, the truth is that the students like it, but sometimes the conditions in the classroom don't allow it. So this is why I'm speaking about flipping the classroom, giving them tools that they can take and do at home. In other words, tools that we can create a little atividadzinha and then post the link up on Classrooms or whichever platform that we are using. Right now, I see that for some of you, you already know this tool, but for the majority, it is a new tool. So I'll walk you through it today. Now, one of the big advantages of this tool is that it allows us to take a video off YouTube and then to make it interactive. In other words, to give them a kind of little quiz so that they can see whether they are actually understanding the video. Now, a big advantage of this tool is that if you click on the settings, it blocks the video for them. In other words, you know when you start watching a video on YouTube and you get a little bored and want to fast forward? Well, EdPuzzle doesn't allow the students to do this if you click on that option. In other words, they have to watch from the beginning, direitinho, until the end, and then do the quiz below. And so this is a wonderful way to ask them different types of questions about the video that develop their critical thinking skills. And we all know that this is a big part of the Perfield. Right, now I'm going to ask you if you trust me to be your teacher today. And I know that I always ask this, but I really think that it is important that we learn from people that we trust. Because if we don't trust the person, we will never learn from them. So could I ask you to type in the chat box if you trust me to be your teacher today? Would you pretend to be my students? Sandra is saying that she trusts me, right? Let's have a look and see. Now, for today's purposes, I'm not going to give you the link to the technology that we're going to use because I am petrified of opening a million windows and the internet crashing on me. I ask you to bear with me. Instead, I'm going to ask you to type in your answers in the chat box, and so it will be one less window that I need to open. I hope that that's okay with you. But in the classroom, obviously, your students would have access directly to this. And I say in the classroom or at home, because if you provided them the link at home, they wouldn't need to open this link in the classroom. Right, now, if you are getting ready to go into Unit 5, you in the 8th year, you will see that Unit 5 is about places to visit and traveling. And so I've chosen a tool that is going to allow us to travel to London. Doesn't that sound exciting? Now, before COVID, we could actually get in a plane and travel, but then Brexit came and made it really difficult to do this. So perhaps a better way to do it is to actually go on a virtual trip. Would you like to go to London for a few minutes with me today? Oh, I can see you nodding your heads. Now you'll also see that I've included a KWL chart on the screen. And I never allow the students to go and travel anywhere without stopping and thinking about what they already know. So I wonder if you would type in the chat box one or two things that you already know of London, or if you've actually been there, one or two things that you've actually seen in London. Let's have a look and see. Elena's got her safety belt on because she's saying, let's travel with a huge smile. There's nothing quite like it, is there, Elena? Right, now remember, our KWL chart is going to start off with a K. In other words, what do we already know about London? Then we'll ask the students to fill in the second column, which is what would they like to learn? And finally, at the end of the lesson, they can come back to the KWL chart and fill in the third column, which will be evidence of their learning. Oh, I see that lots of you have been to London. So we all know that it's a multicultural city. Paula is stressing the Big Ben, which is a definite attraction. Annabelle is speaking about Camden Garden. The London Eye is also a popular one. Elena is speaking about the royal family. So Claudia is saying it's a good idea to go to Madame Tussauds. Lovely parks, Christina is saying. The Rock Circus, Isabel, a definite must. Pedro, the British Museum, amazing and free, so really cool. Paul is speaking about the changing of the guard. And Fernanda, you are right, Chinatown deserves a visit and the Duck Peking is fantastic there and not very expensive. Right, so once we've got to this, then we can actually invite students to follow the link and to watch a video. Now, I'm going to ask you, please, when you see the question, can you type in the answer in the chat box, right? To avoid me from opening up another window, okay? Pay a lot of attention because I'm going to ask you a few questions just to check whether you are understanding my video. Are you ready to go? Can you type in a yes in the chat box so that our virtual trip can begin? Let's have a look. Isabel loves everything about England except the climate. But Isabel, today the climate is not so great here in Portugal, so perhaps it's a good idea to go to London for today. Right, it seems that we are ready. So, ladies and gentlemen, please fasten your seatbelts. We're about to land in Heathrow, London Airport. Off we go. Right, now you can see that we have a little video here, and I'm going to start off by clicking it. Remember that all you have to do is type in your answers in the chat box, okay? Off we go. Here goes, pay attention.
London is situated in the southeast of England in the Thames Valley.
Okay, time for our first question. So where is London located? Would it be in the southeast of England, in the southwest of England, in the south of England, or in the north of England? Could you please type in the chat box? Hi, Leonard, welcome. Let's see, and the most voted option will be the option that I will click on for you today. So where is London located? Paula and Selena are voting for different places, the southeast and the southwest. But Elizabeth is voting for southeast as well. Southeast, Anna says. Let's have a look and see if we get a few more votes. Southeast. It seems like I should be clicking on the southeast. Now, if I click on the southeast, the computer will immediately tell me when I submit whether this is the right answer. And well done, my shiny stars. We've got the right answer. So now if I click on continue, the video will continue. Let's have a look if you can get the next answer right. Sarah, don't panic because the webinar is being recorded so you can watch it later on. Don't worry. Okay, time for question number 2.
Home to over 8 million people, the capital of the UK has been an important financial, educational and cultural centre for hundreds of years.
Right, so how many people live in London? Would that be 7 million, over 8 million, 12 million people? That's even more than the whole population of Portugal. Or would that be over 18 million? Let's have a look and see. Which one are you going to choose today? 7 million, over 8 million, 12 million, or over 18 million? Natalia and Angela have started and they're voting for 8 million. Ludmila, 8 million as well. Pedro, over 80 million? I think you meant 8 million. Manuela, 8 million as well. Now, I'm going to click on the wrong answer on purpose just so that you can see what would happen if the students did this. So let's imagine that we wanted over 18 million. Have a look. So now I've clicked on that. I'm going to submit my answer and you can see that it's telling me that this is the wrong answer and then pointing towards the right answer. Okay, one more little bit so you can see another little trick that this video does. You ready to continue? Don't forget, there'll be another question. Here goes.
Hundreds of years. Of the many gifts England has given to the world, none has been greater than her language and literature. And if ever there's a city that reads like an epic saga, it's London.
Right, and that leads us to the next question. When did the history of London begin? Well, there are 2 possible answers here, so you have to click on 2 answers, or in our case, type in 2 answers in the chat box. Would that be after the Romans left, in the Bronze Age, in medieval times, in the Stone Age, or in 1905? Let's have a look and see. When did the history of London begin? Remember that there are 2 right answers, right? And I think that this is an interesting possibility or an interesting option to include in our videos to make sure that they aren't just clicking a certain, right? They actually have to stop and think. Right. Oh, I see lots of smoke coming out there. When did the history of London begin? Which options do you want me to choose for you? Poland in medieval times and when the Romans left. So let me click one for Poland, when the Romans left. And now Angela is also saying in medieval times. Oh, but Maria Jose is saying in the Stone Age or the Bronze Age. Annabella is voting for 1 and 3. Annabella, I'm going to choose 3 for you. Let's see. So in medieval times, and now we're going to submit. Oops, we have one of the options right. So the correct answer would be 1 and 2. Right, now you can see that I can allow for more time to go between the video, or I can get the answers close together if I want to scaffold learning a little bit more. Oh, I see lots of shiny stars with the right answer on the board. Right, so the question that I have for you is, do you think that your students would enjoy watching a video and doing reading comprehension and listening comprehension like this at home? And this is very important because in the 8th year, now that we've lost 4 tempos into just 2, it's absolutely impossible to do all the texts in the student's book in the classroom. So this is one way that I found to be able to get the students practicing their listening and their reading skills at home in a more interactive way. Oh, good. Angela is saying, or the Angelas are saying that their students would like this. Elena's also agreeing. This would be a fun exercise for them to do. Right, so if that's true, then we can start thinking about how we can use EdPuzzle. And there really are 2 ways. The lazy way, like I've done today, or a more active way. In other words, you can actually use videos that have already been created on EdPuzzle with the questions, and that's exactly what I did today. Or you can go a step further and create your own videos if you want to. Now, how does this work? Well, let me show you. So the first thing that we need to do is actually go on EdPuzzle. And the place to do that is www.edpuzzle.com. Now, when you get there, the opening page will look like what you're seeing. And if you look at this, you'll see that there's a big discover and lots of videos. Those will be the latest videos that people have been watching, right? So it looks pretty much like YouTube. How do you choose a video? Well, the first thing that you need to do is to find it. And to find it, we need to go to the top left-hand corner of the screen where I've put that lovely red box. And in that little tab, it says Discover. And now this is basically a search engine. You just type in the topic of the video that you want, and the computer is going to retrieve all the possible videos that exist under that topic with all the perguntinhas prontinho para usar the next day in your classroom. So let me type in London, and now you will see that all I have to do, there is my London. I know this is quite small, you can't see it, but you can get the gist of it. And I've made a small screen so that you can see the amount of videos that appear on the screen. What you now have to do is, well, watch them, choose the one that you like the most. And you can see that I chose the very first one on the screen. So when you choose that, then you will see that it immediately opens the video for you. And on the right-hand corner, you can see all the different perguntinhas and when they are asked. Now, some of them you might like, some of them you might want to change. Sometimes you might even notice a little mistake or two like I did with this video. So if that happens, it's a better idea to edit it before you give it to the students. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to go to this set of tabs right next to it, as you can see here in my little red box. And if I click on the edit button, then it's going to allow me to make all the changes that I want to. And when I save, it goes into my little folder. Now, the amazing thing about this folder is that you can organize it according to different levels or classes or even resources. So it's a really nice way to manage the site for yourself, right? Nice and easy and not complicated. At this point, you will be ready to share the video with your students. And how do you do that? Well, easy again. We go back to that edit box and we are going to click on the share tab. And if we click on that, you will see that the computer immediately generates a link which you can just copy by pressing on the blue button. So you don't need to copy the whole thing manually. You just press on the blue button and it will copy the link for you then to Control V paste on Teams or whatever Google Classroom that you are using. And sharing a video is literally that easy. So how long do you think it took me to do all this so that I could prepare our trip to London today? Well, about a minute, really. After I'd chosen my video, all I did was just check the answers, fix 2 or 3 spelling mistakes, copied the link, and vadoom, we all went to London today. So nice and easy to use with your students. Now, if you would like to go a step further and create your own videos, you can do that. In other words, you can upload video content and then create your own questions around that content. But I would recommend that you go on YouTube and watch the many tutorial videos. Unfortunately, I don't have time to teach you that today, but I also don't need to, because believe me, I mean, you look at the screen and you can see that there are lots there on my computer for you to choose, okay? Right, Carla says that she's already created a few. Carla, you can vouch for me and tell them how easy it is. It's not very difficult, but of course it is a little more work than just tweaking a video that's already been created. So that is our first tool for today. Showing the students a tool or giving them access to a tool that helps them learn the content. Now, I'd like to go a step further and implement the Perfield. And the Perfield is telling us that we need to not only show students or give students access to content, but we also need to go a step further and we need to make them create their own content. So for this, we're going to need a very different set of tools. A set of tools that put students in the front seat of learning, right? And this means that they are using the tools to develop the skills actively. So they are on the creating end rather than on the receiving end of technology. Right, now how are we going to do that? Well, I'm sure that we've all heard of Padlet. Can you just type in the chat box if you've heard of Padlet, right? But I wonder if you've ever used Padlet maps. I think we've all done those walls where the students are typing in answers and we can then check their feedback. But how many of us have actually used Google Padlet maps? Now, Padlet maps are a fantastic tool to make a follow-up activity to our virtual tour to London. And it's going to allow the students to make an interactive map. And so the little project or trabalhinho that I have for the students is a very simple task. I am going to invite them to treat me to one day in London. So imagine that we could go to London for one day. What would they like us to visit, right? And now what we are going to be able to do is to go on that virtual tour that the students are going to create by themselves. So the first thing they have to do is go and Google different things that they could visit and become aware of the size of London. It's not possible to be able to visit it all in a day. Anna, don't worry, I'd also heard of these maps, but had never actually used the Padlet maps. And then when I did try to use them, I found a whole different world. It's absolutely wonderful. Natalia, absolutely wonderful. Right, so are you ready to come on our second virtual tour? Now, we only have one day, so I've prepared a very little trip for you. fasten your seatbelts, ladies and gents, for the second time today, because we are going to have a very speedy trip around London. Now, I'm just going to click on this link to make sure that you can see my link. Now, remember, we only have a day, so we're going to visit 4 places today, and you can see the different places that we're going to visit by having a look at these different pins. Can you see these different pins? Right, now we're going to start off with this pin, and this pin shows us that there are 2 things to do. And first, I would tell the students to always open the orange pins before opening the red pins. Now, because you are such fantastic teachers, I've created a guided tour for you. And so we're going to click on this orange pin and you will see that it opens up an audio. So sit back and enjoy your first impression of London. Here goes. As you can see, there's a little instruction. Please listen before you begin your tour. Here goes. Oh dear, it seems that the audio isn't doing what I needed to do today. Technology, don't you just love it when it goes a bit crazy? Give me a second just to see if I can make it work for you. Right, let me try again. Can you just type in the chat box if you can hear it now? Sorry, Ludmila, this is technology doing its crazy things. Let's just see if it will work for you. Oh dear, well, give me a second to see if I can get it going. Let me just reload this and perhaps it'll work. Sorry about this, but you know technology, sometimes it has these manias. Right, let's see if it'll work again. So let me just open. Remember, we want them to look at the orange tabs first. And now let's see if you can hear it this time. Oh, great, Maria. Thank you for letting me know that it's working now. Oh, sorry, no. Oh, dear. Well, the idea is that if the students click on this button, and I don't know why it's doing this, but I assume that it is because of all these windows that I have open. When they click on this little button, they can actually record their own little speech. And then you could see the volume here, and that's pressed. So you should, in theory, be able to hear this. I don't know why it's doing this today, and I apologize. Right, now, basically what you would hear was a welcome message. And in that welcome message, I did a little bit of research about the Tower of London and was telling you or asking you whether you knew that the Tower of London always has 6 ravens. And these 6 ravens have been designed to actually protect the monarchy and the crown and the actual city. Right, now once they've done that, then they can move on to the second link. And if you have a look here, you'll see that I'm able to upload a picture and then a little text. So it's a nice little way for them to actually develop their speaking skills. Right, now, after that, they move on to their second destination. And this is almost like a Find Wally activity in which the students can go and then find out or choose the next place that they want to visit. Now, in this case, you can see that there's an orange button. So that's their audio tour, again, giving them an interesting fact that I've discovered. And I won't play that again because, well, obviously technology isn't helping me today. But then you'll also see that there's the possibility of embedding a video. So in this case, the students are going to go off and visit the London Eye. Let's I'm going to cross my fingers and pray to the gods that technology is going to work now. Let's have a look and see if it is. Could you please just type in the chat box if it's working for you? All right. So let's have a look. As you can see, it goes directly into YouTube and it starts playing. Right, again, I can see that the sound isn't working. I must have perhaps clicked on something on my computer. I do apologize for this. But you can see the kind of idea that the students can actually see the video, and you'll just have to believe me that they can hear the audio too. So there the London Eye is, and now they're able to see the plots for themselves, and it's the second best thing for actually being there. Again, I'm really sorry, but I'm not able to share my sound with you for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. Right, now once they visited that, they can go off into the next destination, and this time we're going to visit the Houses of Parliament and Buckingham Palace, and again I can embed a picture, and we're going to end off our presentation at Trafalgar Square today. Now I'd like to show you this blue button. And this blue button is absolutely fantastic because it's a wonderful way for us to allow the students to share their writing skills with us. As you can see, it allows me to get the students to write parágrafozinho about the destination, develop their writing skills, and then upload it onto the site. So it's absolutely wonderful because I'm able to develop students' reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills all at the same time. Isn't this cool? And as you can see, the students can just upload a normal Word document with their title, with the little text that they've written, an image, and now we can also remind them to credit the sources of the image, right? They're not able to say it was theirs if it wasn't theirs. So that's a nice little way to get that visit started. And then you'll see that I've included another video for them to watch. And if sound were working, I would invite you to go and visit one of the most, popular pubs and traditional pubs in the UK, which is right on Trafalgar Square. So a nice, interesting way for the students to go to London and to get other students to go to London. Can I ask you to type in the chat box whether you enjoyed your virtual tour guide today and whether you think your students would enjoy being tour guides as well? So let's see. Oh, Claudia's beat me to it, and Paula already saying a fantastic tool. Isn't it just, Claudia? Isn't this a wonderful way for us to test speaking and writing at the same time? And wouldn't this make an absolutely perfect cross-curricular project for us to be able to do the articulação curricular? It's a really cool tool. Now, the question is, how are you going to use it, right? How do we use it? Well, you know me, I only choose things that are easy to use and things that are free. So how are you going to make this work? Well, the first thing that you need to do is actually go onto Padlet. And then when you get onto Padlet, you need to click on this black button that you can see on the screen. And that button is going to take you to the opening page. So here you can see all the different options and the normal Padlet walls, but I'm going to choose this bluish one that looks like a map. Now, when you choose this bluish one, then you will see that you can create your own map, right? And the first thing that they ask you to do, let me just go a step back, is to choose the type of map that you want. And it's easy to find because there's a little icon of a map. So if I click on that, you will see that I can choose different views. a traditional view, a day view, a night view, a geographical view, or a watercolor that you can see on the screen. I quite like the watercolors, but you can go for a traditional view. Right, now once I've got my watercolor, you will see that I can actually personalize the name of my virtual tour and include an emoji, which the kids love to do. Now, where can they do that? Well, remember that little map just above it, those first 3 tabs will allow them to choose the title, to write a little bit of a phrase, and also to choose the emoji that they want. Now, once we've done that, then we are ready to start creating our tour. And remember that we did that with the pins like these that you can see on the screen. How do you add a pin? Well, you need to go onto this little button, this pink button over here. And if I click on the pink button, then you will see that it automatically opens a box. Now, there are 2 ways of adding a pin. I can do the easy way if I know where my destination is. So here I can just drag and drop the pin and place it on a place. But our students have never been to London, most of them, so they don't know where the Big Ben is. And so a better option is for them to choose this first option where they type in the name of the destination that they want. So let me give you an example of this. I'm going to type in London, and then immediately the computer puts the pin in the right place. Now, in this case, I just chose a very general London, but I could choose Buckingham Palace or the Big Ben or the National Gallery. That was the one that Pedro chose. I think Pedro chose the British Museum, didn't you, Pedro? So we could just type in the British Museum and the computer would automatically put in the pin in the right place. In other words, the students would actually get to see where the different things are on the map and become more savvy. Now, once they've done that, we can start editing what they put on the pin. You'll remember that I put in an audio and a video and an image and the text. So where are we going to do that? Well, the minute that you click on the pin, you automatically get this box. And let me zoom this in so you can see it a little bit bigger. Now you can see that there are different options on the tool. And we're going to start off with the first option in the first square. This is an important option because this is the option that allows students to upload a document. So this one was the one that allowed me to write the textinho of Trafalgar Square, right? And you can see that it is really easy to use because it just accesses your computer and then you choose whichever file you want to use and click on the Done button. So that's the first option. Now, the second option is an option that I didn't use today, but that my students love playing with because it allows you to make some crazy videos or photos of yourself. And I need you to promise that you aren't going to laugh now because I have a little bit of a crazy photo of me. Do you promise not to laugh? Are you shaking your head or are you nodding? Right, so have a look. If I do this and then just activate my screen camera, it allows me then to create a crazy photo and edit the backgrounds, which our students already know how to do, right? So that's another option. Now, I've clicked on the third and the fifth button because both of these buttons take us to the same place, which is really the whole toolkit. So another way of you choosing what you want to upload or how you want to upload is just clicking on these buttons, right? So you can click and create GIFs. You know how the students love to do that. And that's the place to start, right? Now, finally, you can also want to add an image or a video like I did today. Elena, it is true that technology takes time, but you'll see that this particular bit of technology or tool saves time because if I just type in the place where I want to go, you'll see that immediately it opens up things and I just have to click and it imports an image. So I don't actually have to leave Padlet and go onto Google to find my own image. It just does all this immediately for me. Now, Tanya, it is true that we don't have a lot of time in the classroom, so this is why we're flipping it so that we can get students to do this on their own. Right, the last tool which I wasn't able to show you today, if you click on this last little tool, then it will take you to the audio. And the audio is the third right-hand green button. Now, if you click on that, this is absolutely cool because automatically you get access to record your voice. So again, you do not need to leave Padlet. You can record your voice here and it automatically uploads your audio onto the Padlet. Isn't this a really cool tool? Can you imagine yourself using it with your students? Would you like to type in the chat box before I show you my last tool for the day, as we're almost on the clock today? Right, so Padlet Maps, an interesting tool that allows you to get the students speaking by creating their own audios, writing by uploading their documents, listening by listening to videos, and also writing short little texts and captions for the videos. Right, now the last tool that I've chosen today is a tool that I think mainly targets the secondary classroom. And I'm absolutely praying that audio is going to work in a while, because there's an absolutely fantastic video that I'd like to show you. Now, the tool that I've chosen is a tool that helps us develop social and emotional awareness. And I think that you'll agree with me that with everything that is going on this planet, with COVID and with the war, I mean, this is something that, you know, there is room for us to work with in the classroom. Now, this particular tool is going to allow us to develop the students' writing and speaking skills, because it is going to allow them to listen to other people, interview them, and then to tell their stories. And it's also going to allow us to do what we did with our first tool, which is just listen to other people's videos, or then go a step further and create our own. So you can decide what your students are ready for, or perhaps even use a first video to motivate them, and then a second video to actually get them going. Right, now, I'd like to invite you to listen to a little video of this tool. And the tool that I'm speaking of is called Storycorp. Now, with Storycorp, we are able, as I said to as I mentioned, to interview somebody. And if we download an app on our phones, we get suggested interview questions, which means that we are able to catch students asking very interesting questions. But the students can also go beyond this and personalize and create their own ones, right? So let me just give this a minute to upload and see if I can play this for you. And now you can't see this, but I'm getting very nervous, wondering whether audio is going to work. So could you please just type in the chat box if it's working? And I'm praying to the gods. Let's have a look and see. No. Oh dear, give me just a second. Technology is really testing me today. Hang on. Let's see. No, if I do this, it changes my screen. Give me just a second. I think I might have to call for techie support today. Just give me a minute. Let me just think around this. Hang on a minute. Right, give me just a minute. I think I might have a solution. Okay, hang on a minute. Let's see if this is going to work. I think I'm almost there. Yeah, Christina, I'm changing the settings. Let's see if it works now.
We can find wisdom and poetry all around us. All we have to do is listen. Storycorp invites you to help create the largest collection of voices ever gathered in human history and preserve it at the Library of Congress forever. With Storycorp's app, you can record a meaningful interview with someone close to you. Ask simple questions like, what are you most grateful for?
Thank you so much for
How do you want to be
typing in.
remembered? Then listen. It's easy. All you have to do is follow these simple steps. Step 1. Get the Storycorp app for your mobile device and create a free account. Step 2. Pick a partner. This can be anyone you'd like to get to know better. Choose interview questions from lists provided in the app or written by you, and find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be interrupted. Step 3. Let the app guide the way. Follow the prompts to begin recording and let the conversation flow. Step 4. After the interview is over, take a selfie with your partner and add a title to help you keep track of your conversation. Add a summary, things like what did you talk about, where, and with whom. Finally, add keywords, simple words and phrases that make it easier for you to find your interview in our collection. Step 5. Choose the privacy setting that feels right, and make sure to publish your interview so it will be added to the Storycorp archive and preserved at the Library of Congress. You can choose to share your story with the world or keep it private and share your file directly with family and friends. Listening is an act of love and respect. Listening to someone reminds them that their lives matter and reminds us all of what matters most. Help us make history. Download the app. Record your story.
Isn't this a really interesting tool? And I have to agree with Pureza, it's a wonderful way to make our students write and to make sure that they don't look like this man on the screen, absolutely bored with our lessons. Now, I'd like to show you just one video so that you can see the amazing quality of videos on Storycorp. This really is something that has a wonderful place in our secundario classes. Now, at the moment, I have one of my students who's going through this issue of transgender. And it's a big, big thing in the student's life, as you can imagine. But it's also affecting all the other students in the class, as well as many times in the school. And so we agreed that we would speak about this, but we wanted to speak about it in a way that would create empathy with the students. So I asked this student to come with me and to choose a video of Storycorp that would sort of reflect what he or she was feeling. And this is the video that they chose. Now, I'd like to just invite you to listen to it. It's just a 2-minute video, so it's nice and short and perfect to start off debating. But have a look at the quality of it and have a look at the wonderful way that it develops emotional awareness and empathy. Let me just play that for you. Sit back and enjoy.
Do you remember when things really changed for you?
We went to a camp and I met 3 best friends, Luke, Brock, and Cooper. They were all transgender like me, so they all wanted to be boys. Brock taught me how to pee standing up.
And that was huge for you, right?
Yeah. That's why I said we're bros. We know each other.
Do you ever get scared about what it's going to be like to grow up transgender?
I've been wondering if when I'm older, a lot of people will try to hurt me or something.
Like if they find out that you were born a girl and they have a problem with it, you think that they might try to hurt you in some way?
Yeah.
Were you ever worried about telling me that you were transgender?
Yes.
Did you ever try to tell me and then change your mind?
Mm-hmm.
How many times do you think?
Think like 4 times.
4 times.
I was worried that you liked me as a girl.
Because we used to have a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Do we still have fun?
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really matter if you're a boy or a girl, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that you were dealing with that on your own. If I'd known, I would have tried a little bit harder to have that conversation with you and maybe start it myself.
Do you worry about me?
I worry about how other people might treat you, and it makes me upset to think about what you might have to go through. You amaze me every day. You can tell me anything, anytime, anywhere, and it won't change how much I love you. I'll always have your back.
Thank you, Mom.
Isn't it amazing, right? You can't see, but I have a little tear in my eye. I think this touches any mother's heart or anybody's heart. So this is the quality of the kinds of videos that I'm speaking about, right? Marcy, I think the students can record it in any language, but for our English classroom, well, English obviously makes more sense. There are many videos on absolutely every topic that you could possibly imagine. Now, I think that this kind of video is the springboard for other activities, where we could then ask the students to listen to the video again and write out that person's story. And so they would be developing their writing skills, or make a summary of the video, or make a comment on the part of the video or the interview that they enjoyed the most. One of the activities that I enjoy doing with my students is then getting them to make a playlist which mirrors the emotions that the video made them feel, right? And students always love doing this, and then they explain why they did it. And finally, you can go the extra mile and challenge them to make their own video and tell somebody's story. Now, notice that there's always an app where, with interview questions, where they're finding out the questions that they could ask. So our time together is drawing to an end. And you know what I'm going to say next, don't you? No, not glory, glory, this is the end of the story, but glory, glory, this is the beginning of a flipped classroom with an engaging learning story each and every day. I'd like to say thank you to all of you who came online and stayed online with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have seen you and to have been with you and to have shared some tools which I think are amazing. And I hope you will agree as well. I do want to apologize again for the techie difficulties with my first audio, but thank goodness I managed to squirm my way around that. And luckily, there was a plan B. Technology. It's got a hell of a sense of humor. Wouldn't you agree? Thank you so much for having joined us today, and I hope you have a nice, relaxing evening with those that you love. This is all from me today, but I'd like to invite you to be with us tomorrow, in which we're going to have another webinar for the primary classroom about spicing up the curriculum with picture books. Thank you so much, everyone. A very big hug from me to you from Porto. Bye.